Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle Cavey, and I'm the founder and managing director of Brand Fundi, a boutique brand communications agency. I've worked in PR and marketing for 23 years, and the IMM Graduate School has been my client for a couple of years now. So I'm pleased to be hosting today's event and welcome an industry colleague and our speaker, Samantha Hogg. Samantha is a seasoned communications consultant with 31 years experience, and she's the owner of Ginger Ninja PR. She's also the author of the book Making Hot Dogs, a quirky guide to building a career in PR and making life effing awesome. She's worked with many blue chip international and local brands, and she's renowned for being agile and embracing any communications challenge, no matter the industry, although she does have a strong pedigree in technology. Samantha is a professional who lives by her integrity and is passionate about the role of PR in the marketing mix and inspiring individuals like you today. Before I hand it over to Samantha, I want to mention that she's decided to give away a copy of her book to the person who asks the best question in the Q&A session that's scheduled after the presentation. Samantha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Michelle. What a wonderful welcome from you, and I appreciate it, a fellow colleague in the PR industry. And good morning to everybody, and thank you so much for this opportunity to talk PR and making hot dogs. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, sorry, give me one sec. There we go. Great stuff. So everyone can see and happy to go. I will just kick straight into it.
Perfect. Thank you, Samantha.
Okay, I don't know why it's not getting. There we go. So yes, as Michelle mentioned, I'm owner and MD and the chief of Ginger Ninja, which is a 19-year-old PR company and what we like to call ourselves a storytelling mavericks. I'll cover more about why I've chosen that. I've been doing this for 31 years, and I started in engineering and then moved across into tech and have been kind of dropped in and did a few other industry projects as well. As Michelle mentioned, I recently launched my first and published my first book called Making Hot Dogs. And it really is a quirky guide to all things PR, but all things life as well. Come on. Sorry, this transition is not doing, oh, there we go. Just to give you an idea of who the business is, over the years, 138 clients over the 19 years. We work across the continent, and we also are members of the With Global Alliance. So we have sister companies across the world where we can help our clients and provide communication services to them. We have 9 people. I've deliberately kept the business quite small. We have 2 office dogs and have worked across 26 different continents. Just there, not 26 continents, good Lord. Just to give you an idea of the clients we have, you may recognize some of them, but because we're predominantly tech, you may not. The older among us, like myself, will recognize the Rolex brand, and let me know if you sing the tune. We then have a wide variety of technology brands. Probably one of the most impressive is Terraco, which is Africa's largest data center, as well as Ukesh, that I'll talk about later today. So just make it, yes, fucking awesome, I have to say it, sorry. You can see behind me, it's written on the walls in my office. It's written behind on my walls in my office, and really what I say to my team is just make it awesome. Whatever you do, just make it awesome. However you do it, it's all about making it awesome. So Making Hot Dogs is part business book, part life story, and lots of advice. It's from a person who started working at 19 years old. I don't have a formal qualification in PR. In fact, I did many moons ago, did an IMM course. in marketing, but have never really studied PR. So I'm self-taught over the 31 years. I previously managed a global PR firm called Text 100 and managed 3 offices within that in Joburg, Cape Town, and we had a full-time team of 5 people in Microsoft. I started at that business as an account manager, and I was then the first South African to actually be appointed as a country manager. I worked at Citibank, where I set up the comms department. My side hustle when I was younger was aerobics. I also taught Pilates. I've had numerous opportunities to work abroad, but just passionately love this country and never want to leave. So the book is a lot of advice. I have been a single mom to 2 girls who are now 13 and 18. And I've run the business, as you know, for a long time. I have hundreds of trusted media relationships, and I know thousands of people. And really, it's about learning to believe in yourself, about taking chances and working hard. Making hot dogs, as I've mentioned, I've just included in here, and if you'd like copies of the presentation, there's no problem. Just to let you know, this community reviewed it and founded an idiosyncratic retelling of the challenges I've faced throughout my career and personal life. It's a great guide to what you need to do if you'd like to make something meaningful out of a career in PR. I also had one of my much loved and long known client read it, and what she loved about it was the autobiographical nature of the book and the tips. Brent Lindeque from The Good Things Guy also was delighted by the book. So I'm very happy that it's landing well in the industry. So we know that public relations is about people and how we connect and how we relate to one another. And it's also how we use the content and the visuals to establish common ground. As Michelle mentioned, and most of my point of view comes from the tech sector. You will see that I work in fintech, secure tech, within cloud, within prop tech, telecoms. We've worked with a lot of startups in the tech space, and we do have the odd B2C clients. So bear in mind that my point of view really is heavily from a tech perspective. So 31 years ago, we had no cell phones, we had no emails, we had no internet. Can you imagine that? We had to post our press releases and fax them to news desks across the country. It was a very different time and definitely did warp us a little. I have, as you can imagine, witnessed incredible evolutions, both in tech and the world in general. But what I looked at is how has this changed PR? And yes, it has, because technology, you know, General Electric said every company is a software company. So technology is slowly but surely changing the world we live in, whether we're in business or we're consumers. We are drowning in content. The timeframes are completely skewed. We have generations now of instant gratification, which makes all our lives and roles in business difficult. We have many filterless conduits as well, where people can say and do as they like, to, you know, both to praise brands, but also to discredit brands. These people are less tolerant and they don't easily trust. And I've seen a huge shift in terms of people trusting. Media outlets have shrunk. They were small before, and then COVID really did destroy the media. And obviously there's a smaller pool of journalists. But what hasn't changed, and I fundamentally believe this, is that PR is a skill that is still vitally needed, and that content creation is important. Oh, sorry, God, oh dear. Just want to close this because I can't see my slide. There we go. Storytelling is what is important. Also, social media is not PR. Professionalism remains key. Creativity is still needed. The relationship in PR and media is still the same and is still very much symbiotic and important. And PR is still agile and capable of helping businesses. So the big thing is that, yes, while so much has changed, what it takes to be good in PR and to be a successful PR consultant really hasn't. And I hope that within the industry, we never lose those fundamental skills. If we look at the evolution of PR, humans need to tell stories, and companies want to tell those stories and want to manage their image and their communications. That hasn't changed. The how, the what, and the where, though, continues to evolve every day. Within my sector in PR, it boomed. I actually onboarded clients in COVID, which was very unusual. And that was along with the growth of the technology. The rise of the internet, has birthed social media, which, as we all know, has changed the landscape tremendously. It's dominated communications for a while. In fact, there was a cycle where people really thought that, social media was the go-to and not PR. PR, we were forced to take a back seat, and we often succumbed budget as a result of that. But content started dominating, and we've seen over the last few years the rise of customer experience, and you would know it as the CX acronym. That has become the de facto for business focus. I've seen it in clients where businesses are being launched that offer software and offer advice and consulting on customer experience. And the idea behind it is that customer experience is at the center of the business. No longer is it just the logo, it's about the customer and what is it going to take for that customer experience to be a good one. Business has realized since that social media was not content generating. And I mean, I'm sure I'll have questions on this, but the content and the stories really do come from a PR perspective. So we did a full circle back to where it belonged, that PR is the content generation and the storytelling, where the storytelling lives. Now we have both working in unison, content first, social media as one of the many conduits and tools that we can use. I thought because I'm addressing quite a lot of marketing people, I might go through the PR struggle today and the things that I've seen over the 30 years, or 31 years now. PR started back then creating awareness and about anything, and it was largely product related. And I don't think it had evolved at all in terms of thought leadership. I was then in the engineering industry, and we really did pumps and valves and instrumentation equipment and what was called PLCs, which is a programmable logic controller. And we spoke about those things, about the products, about how they worked, and that has certainly shifted. And today, if you have clients who want to talk about those things, it's hard. The media don't care, and that's really what other tools are for, is more the product pushing. So it's evolved to be more than press releases, but I think I have witnessed a lot of misunderstanding and undervaluing of the role of PR. Conversely, we are then relied on heavily within some businesses to be the solution to all marketing and sales struggles. And PR is not a sales generating tool. And I am very forthright and authentic and honest, and I will say that I cannot increase your sales. I can help you. I can make the cold call a lukewarm call if you see the business in the media. But we are not a sales tool. So often we have clients who look to us to resolve everything. And while us at Ginger Ninja try our best, it doesn't always work. Often marketing managers are gatekeepers. This comes either from company culture or perhaps an insecurity on a marketing manager's perspective, but it truly limits our success as we're blocked from forming relationships with thought leaders and getting that content that actually works. So the gatekeeping is a significant struggle. PR briefs are often non-existent or badly understood by the marketing manager, and if they're being that gatekeeper and we are not getting the direct message from the thought leader, often then the product that comes out of it is not great. Also, there is an art to briefing, and sometimes that stands in the way of PR success. There are times where we are often sidelined or treated as a second thought and not having the focus or a strategy. And it's kind of, as they say in Afrikaans, an aangepluk. I was lecturing at the School of Advertising 2 weeks ago, and I said, actually, you get the 4 Ps. PR should be in there, and it actually...
Sorry, Samantha, if you can just pause for a moment while I find who has their microphone on. I can't find them. Just bear with me a moment.
I've done it. It was Learn More. I've muted him.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Samantha. You can carry on. Samantha, you are now on mute. Sorry, I think something went wrong there. Just if you can just unmute yourself, it's not allowing me to unmute you.
All right, there we go.
There we go. Just rewind up to where I said continue. There we go.
Yeah, so budgets aren't always forthcoming, and they can be quite tiny. And I find that we fight a lot to get what we are due in terms of the impact we make in the business. So if for example, we're in a client where the marketing manager relies heavily on us, and we love that, and we are there to help the marketing manager and make the marketing manager look amazing, often the budget doesn't correlate. So that can hamper our success. Timelines are not supported, and you mostly have people that don't understand the art of PR and then want instantaneous results. So, where is my coverage? How, when is it coming? Why isn't it? Why aren't my sales increasing? And that's a frustration for us, because it's an ignorance in terms of how PR works. And I mean, I've said to clients when they want new clients, when they want to come on for 3 months, I'm like, please just start with 6, because 3, and I'm sure Michelle would agree with me, 3 months is not enough to get a PR campaign fully functional, to show the absolute benefit. So 6 months is, in my mind, a minimum of what you should commit if you really want to start seeing. But to pull PR in and expect absolute amazing results right from the start is not always fair. And we do bring results every month, but you need to support it for more long term. So the role of storytelling, and I'll go into this a little more, and to be honest, if there's one message that you can take away today, it's how you can support the shift to storytelling in PR, because it's not fully understood or embraced, and it still fights against the social media side. As mentioned, we need commitment, we need input, we need direction. Often we feel like mushrooms, because the clients, I always say to clients, remember, this is a machine and you've got to feed it, and it's a give and take, and you've got to talk to us all the time. As a result, we have WhatsApp groups, we have email, we have phone calls, any which way. If a client feels they want to send me a voice note, that's fine, or just pop a message on WhatsApp. I would rather get more information than little information. There are other times, and I don't know if it's because I'm just a redhead ninja, but there are times where marketing managers feel threatened. And it has happened to me several times in the past, where they're more threatened by our presence or my presence, and not seeing the opportunity to make this work for them. And they literally almost work against us, which makes it very hard. I'm not there to outshine a marketing manager. I'm there to make a marketing manager look fantastic. And we have solid relationships and clients that adore us because we help. And one of my clients might be on this, I'm not sure, but I formed a really special relationship with one who is new to the industry, and I like to call myself her work mother. And because I help her and I guide her, and she's working with a lot of strong men, and that's not easy. And I love doing that, because I find that's one of the bonuses of my job. So I don't know who's on this and your levels of understanding, but I thought that very quickly I will just say to you that the value of PR, honestly, is how you shape a brand. It has the depth that is needed nowadays. And if you have a look, I do an incredible messaging matrix, which I'm happy to share with people, that looks at a brand in depth and how we communicate it. PR has the agility to adapt quickly. And I mean, I will say that's one of the great things about social media, is that ability to very quickly, or digital campaigns rather, to adapt very quickly. But it's the content and the PR that makes it work. And probably one of the biggest things I've noticed in the last 5 years is that investors adore PR. I have, as I said, worked with a lot of startups. and they need seed funding. And there's often private equity guys for the first 5 years, some venture capital guys, and then sometimes, as with some of my bigger clients, there are acquisitions. And what the investors love seeing is the PR. And when these guys go in for funding, they literally use our PR as part of their profile. That third-party endorsement carries such weight that it helps them get millions and millions in seed funding, which is incredible. It is a differentiator, it is a tangible expression, and while it doesn't own the brand visually, it certainly does own what the brand stands for. And when we look at the role of trust, and I'm actually on Morning Live tomorrow morning, and we're talking about the book, but also talking about brand trust and how PR is so vital in today's world. We live the brand in PR. We show the brand's integrity. And we know, certainly from our perspective, that the PR is grounded in the truth. And it is, and it should be transparent as you move, which is why it is such a powerful trust builder. So I mentioned storytelling to you, and this is the biggest shift, and I'm not quite sure how much has been said about it within the industry or within courses or within varsities. I have lectured at TICS, was last night. I've done Stellies, I'm going to UJ, because I'm so passionate about this industry, and I so badly want people to take it seriously and also to see it as a viable career option. And I know that they are not looking at PR at the level that it should be, and I know why, but that's why it's so lovely to go and speak to these people. And the shift to storytelling and how it works with PR is so important. It's not just about press releases or short-term campaigns anymore. It's a long-term view, and it has to be consistent. And storytelling is a fundamental human experience. And if you have a look, it stems back to cave paintings, where there was a deep need to communicate over time. Individuals throughout history have discovered the power of effective storytelling. You know, we only have to look at politics to see the good and bad effects of storytelling. It shows and helps present a compelling narrative, and it leaves an indelible mark on the world. There are even psychological and neuroscientific studies dedicated to better understanding storytelling. And I'm here today to say that PR really, this is the next wave, is the ability to storytell. In the book Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, it was said that history is ultimately a complex network of stories we've told each other. Storytelling is in essence about survival and about prosperity. And because of these stories and the tales we've been told and we tell, we've come to believe in capitalism and nations and borders and justice and money and laws. And all of that, it's the storytelling. I know that within the office, we tell stories, good, bad, funny, on a regular basis. This is our role. Storytelling and sharing stories is what PR can do. We are deeply social creatures, and whether it's, you know, personal or in business, we are social, and we care a great deal about reputation and the reputation of others. So PR as a storytelling mechanism is vital, and that's where we're going. And that's, if you have a PR agency or you're looking at your content, ask yourself, what story are you telling to your customers, to your employees, to your investors, to the wider conduits, to the media? What story are you telling? We all want to be heard. We want to hear and we want to be heard. And this has happened for thousands of years. So when you look at concepts like storytelling and reputation, then PR of all the communications is fundamentally important for business and people and institutions like the IMM. I mean, today we are telling a story. And this is the biggest shift that I'm ridiculously passionate about. I will further in the presentation take you through one or two of ways that we storytell. Just a very quick snapshot on the media. I'm sure as marketing people, you all know how badly it shrunk, that COVID shrunk it even more. The darlings, the Associated magazines, the places that all collapsed as a result. We have limited journalists now working on titles. They are short-staffed, they are underpaid, they have less time available, they are stressed. On top of it, we are seeing a lack of advertising support, which has now brought about a significant rise in paid media. Probably even 2 years ago locally, we weren't looking at paid media, and now paid media is becoming a reality. And we need to look at how paid media or advertising can work well with earned media and how that impacts the stories that we are told. When I get asked by clients if they should invest in advertising, I always go back to the same thought, that unless there's a strategy, unless there's a greater good, don't do it. So within your storytelling framework, consider where paid media can help bolster. If it's not within a framework and it doesn't have strategic intent, you are wasting money. Relationships with PR consultants matter with the media. The story angles matter. The delivery from your agency matters. And the reputation of your agency. We have an incredibly good hit rate, and I'd like to think that it's because we are known to respond quickly. We are known to give good story angles, and we are known to give great content, quality content, and that matters to you as our clients. I could have actually mentioned this in the stumbling blocks, but a well-trained spokesperson can make or break a PR campaign as well. We need people who don't mind having their photographs taken, who don't mind talking to the media. And I cannot tell you how many times in my history I've had clients who are media shy and just don't want to do it. I've had clients who go, no, I'll send you a picture, and I get what I can see was probably one of his internet dating pictures. And I must send that to a journalist. It's not going to work. We actually find that the better the photography, the higher the hit rates on press releases as well, which is amazing. So your spokesperson, you need them media trained. You need them to be passionately committed to the PR. We need buy-in from the top all the way through. Response times from the client, from you, from the CEOs or the spokespeople, that matters, and it is so vital. Journalists have deadlines, and if we don't respect and understand those, we're not going to get the results. The willingness to help. I've often on radio broadcast interviews, the client will go, no, well, it's too short notice. And then I have to explain it's the nature of the beast. And yes, it's short notice, but let's bend over backwards, because guess what? This is a free interview for you. Online obviously dominates in terms of coverage, but print still impresses the most. I mean, who doesn't like to see themselves in print? And broadcast has so many options and is still extremely powerful. I thought too that this might be useful for you before I go into some strategy, is a checklist for choosing a PR agency. I have to say that I actually dropped the word PR from my name, and we're literally now Ginger Ninja. And that's because I have seen the vital role that we can play within a business, within clients. We offer so much more than what people understand PR to be. So I found, ironically enough, it was limiting me. So we now have a content generating PR division. We have a digital division. We have an indie publishing division. We do publicity stuff. We do so much more than what you would understand it to be. But if you're looking for an agency, honestly, you need to ask yourself, do you like them? Did you meet them, and do you like them? Because that chemistry, this is going to be an important relationship. If that chemistry is not there, if you don't feel like you are the same kind of people, don't even consider it. Have they got the necessary experience to achieve your goals? If they don't have the bespoke industry experience, have a look at what they've done in other industries, because to be honest, we can learn industries. We know how to reach the media. I, at one stage in 2012, launched Edgar's Summer Range in the middle of June as a project for MNC Saatchi Abel. And it was at a time where they were considering buying my business. And I ended up doing that project for them. We had the most incredible turnout because we applied what we did in the tech sector to that sector, and the media responded so well to it. It was incredible. I then decided to not sell the business purely for personal reasons. I was a newly single mom to two girls that were 2 and 7. And I knew that if I had moved the business to there, it would have changed everything, and I couldn't be the mother that I needed to be to them after a very traumatic divorce. So I then backed out of that, but I was very grateful for the opportunity to work on Edgar's and to do something different. You need to look at what the response times have been like. I, towards the end of last year, pitched for quite a significant account. And the third round was to write a press release for them, which I duly did, took the brief, wrote the release, sent it to them within the normal time frame that we would do. There was an agency, and I'm not sure who it was, but there was an agency in the running that took a week to give them a press release. When you're in a pitch situation, you cannot take a week to give a press release when I took a day. And I am competitive like that, and I wanted to show them, you know, Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And when you're in a situation where you're looking at agencies and they show you who they are, take that, notice that. How big is the agency and how much attention do you want? I like to say that we like to be a big fish in a small sea. So we love to get involved in startups and smaller businesses where we help them across. We book advertising, we give them advice. I've even edited a client's CV, her husband's CV. We become indispensable, and I love that. But if you want a big agency, then know that you're going to be one of many, and that you probably won't necessarily work with the MD of the business, you'll work with the team. So decide what you want, what kind of experience you want. How much lateral thinking has gone into their work. In lecturing to these students recently, I've said to them that one piece of advice I can give is when you get a brief, don't regurgitate the brief back to the client in the pitch. Look at how you can do it differently. Do you agree with the brief? I have many times gone in and said, actually, don't agree with your brief. I think you need to be doing this. It hasn't always won me the business, but it retained my integrity and my honesty and in my authenticity of how I do PR. Are they fun to work with? We take what we do very seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. And we love that our clients enjoy being with us, and we know about their kids, and we know about their husbands, and we know about their running, and their engagements, and their great, it's important to have fun as well. And like I said, to keep it awesome. Have you spoken to any of their clients or the media? I to date have got probably 90% of my business via client and media referrals. I very seldom will proactively pitch for business, and I'm blessed, but it's also a testament to the kind of work we do. And like I said, make sure that the skills run deeper than the MD. I've done that now. Yes, Ginger Ninja is my business and I'm front and center, but I'm passionately building a team that will offer what I would offer and that I would be proud of. So I wanted to show you this. I've just had to unfortunately take the client branding out, but this is a content strategy and storytelling approach. What you see there, I like when I do my strategies to add visual parts to it because it helps clients understand, it helps the storytelling. If you can see it visually, you can understand it intellectually. What you see on the outside are their personas. So these, the customer experience, the fraud, the security, the compliance, those are the people they speak to. And they sent me, this particular client sent me an Excel spreadsheet with those pillars and what those people are about. So if we're trying to reach them, we then need to have that as our target audience, and that needs to dominate and dictate what we say. Within that, there is the attract, engage, and delight, and it's lending a little from a circular model that you would see in digital. But how do we attract, how do we engage, and how do we delight them? And keeping that circle and that funnel moving as we go, and that we reach all four of those personas. The closing the identification gap is a strapline that I actually came up with while doing the strategy for the client. And what's so lovely about it is that often I come up with these things and then use it throughout the company in other ways that I'm not even part of. So if you then flatten that structure and have a look at the attract, engage, and delight, the strategic outlook and what forms part of the plan that we work on going forward. The attract part is really about the earned media. That is critical to increasing awareness and attracting attention. We attract here through educational content, through thought leadership. And thought leadership is literally the trends, the issues, the business case scenarios. We can look at company news, what we do if there's a new appointment. We always say, okay, they've been appointed as the new Chief Technology Officer. These are the trends they see in the industry. We don't just do a flat story about, well, John has now joined this company and good for John. We try and put as much intelligence into it. So we could run a What Is series, because we are, remember, with attracting, we are looking at awareness and we are looking at education. And to have the depth, we are looking at profiling of people. And you can see under there that that's what we would do for a customer experience side of thing. That to reach those people, we need the education, the thought leadership. If we look at engage across both the fraud and the compliance people, there we are looking at company news, we are looking at customer wins, which businesses have actually engaged, and that will help, because from a fraud and compliance perspective, these people are looking for very specific technical things. So we are going to speak with our content to those people. The thought leadership will be geared towards that, and I will give you examples of that shortly. There's tips and tricks, there are how-tos, and there's still profiling. There's events and awards that we look at there. There's speaking opportunities. There's development of white papers, and again, more profiling. When we
Samantha,
look at yes.
Apologies, there's 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
You've got 5 minutes, okay.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Okay.
With Delight, we're looking at case studies and testimonials and third-party recommendations. What this also has very quickly, at the bottom there, you will see the brand values that I developed for them within a messaging matrix. So they know from a visual perspective and from a content perspective that those are the words that need to be addressed. And here is an example of a content plan. The overall theme was closing the identification gap. I gave it creative cogs through the months. You will see there the 30 seconds, they're turning 5, and then their technology, the triangulation. You can add wonderful creativity to it with the triangulation. You know, we could send media drops of Doritos that are triangles. You know, with 30 seconds, we can do fun blogs about what can you do in 30 seconds, teasers about, you know, how fast can you run 100 meters. You have fun with it, but it's about creating attention. And we then look at features across magazines. We look at case studies where it talks about that. We look at media engagement, competitions and awards where we can refer back to the 30 seconds, the 5 years. And the 5 years is great because in March, then we celebrate their 5th year. We look at what we can do there. And that's the content plan, really. Very quickly, and I'm going to run out of time, and I warned Michelle that I might, but Ukesh has been a great case study for us. We started with them in 2018 where they were a B2C. We pivoted them to grow to a B2B business. We've moved the campaign literally from 2 actions. And where I say actions, just this is a unique concept to our business. I don't work in hours, I work in actions, and I find it works better. So clients buy actions from us, they don't buy hours. Otherwise, you end up arguing forever and a day about how long something takes. We had to move a client from a B2C to a B2B, and it was a major pivot from a company that was looking to provide a QR code way to address financial inclusion to a company that realized they needed to pivot, or chose to pivot, to B2B. And in fact, the technology platform they had developed called Eclipse could help so many other businesses address financial inclusion. And that was the journey that we had with them over the years up until now. Last year, we gave them a return on investment of 1 to 71, which basically means for every rand they spent, we gave them 71 rand back in coverage. Our retainer has grown 160% since 2019. This company is on the edge of getting major funding. They have grown immensely. They have offices now, their head office is moving to London. They are in Dubai, they are in Singapore, they are going to Australia. It is incredible, and they do not advertise. They use PR, and it's probably been one of the greatest successes and most exciting project we've worked on. They've committed to working with us. They've chosen us, and it makes such a difference. They have a wonderful marketing manager that's growing the brand with us. And they have actually secured 2 new clients for us because of their belief of Ginger Ninja. And in fact, it keeps growing. They're a wonderful company to talk to and to look at. And if you see them everywhere, just know that it's the PR that's doing it. And they run their social separately, but the PR is front and center and is a priority. And we started working with Clayton Hayward, who you can see over there. We started working with him, and we've now broadened it as his team has broadened. And it's a wonderful success story about the power of PR. How we did that is we have one underlying value of we do what we say we will, and that is every consultant in this business. We have an excellent standard of work. We have a can-do attitude, and I think if you speak to my clients and you speak to the media, they'll tell you the same. Yes, we specialize, and that does help. We have excellent media relationships, and my own go back to the 90s. Arthur Goldstuck was the master of ceremonies at my official book launch for Making Hot Dogs, and what that man said about me will forever stay with me because he is an incredible reference. We have strong client relationships that also, go back years. We find creative approaches. We like to have fun, and we love what we do. So Making Hot Dogs really encompasses a lot of my history, a lot of tips and tricks for PR. It's a passion project. As I said, I'm hoping people will want to use PR more, will understand it better. I'm hoping that children, that kids, young adults will choose it as a career. And you don't make money launching a book, but what you do is you spread the word and you share your passion, and that's what I'm doing today. And I truly hope that through this I've enlightened you, and I'm absolutely happy to share my advice, my strategy ideas with you at any time. If you are interested in buying the book, and I would sincerely appreciate it, you can purchase it through my website at gingerninja.co.za. It is also available on Amazon for Kindle and across some ebooks. And that's me.
Great, thanks very much. I didn't see any questions coming up through the presentation. Do we have anybody who would like to raise a hand now?
I really hope I didn't speak too fast.
No, not at all. I don't see any hands raised. Oh, there you go, 2 participants. I'm just trying to see who is asking. So Mokhle, is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, lovely. Hi, Samantha. Beautiful presentation. I loved it all. And I do have a question here. I am with an organization that I will not mention the name, but we are doing a skills development project. It's a national project for which we want a PR organization to help us with funding and stuff. And I was just, as I'm listening to you, I'm just.
Oh, we're losing you.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, there you go.
So I'm curious to know if it is a type of work that you would would be in the profile of.
So, Zamukhle, if I understand correctly, I would say that PR is certainly a tool that you can use to help position the project that you're working on,
Yes.
to talk about the goals you're trying to achieve, to get the media behind it, to get people to understand it, and that will inevitably and invertedly help you raise the funds. So that's how I've worked with the likes of Ukesh. I have another client called Aura. There's a few where we've started working with them, we build up the PR, they know when they're going into their funding rounds, and then they use what we have done for them to give them credibility to the funders. So, you know, that's where we come in. It's a kind of a support tool. So we can help you craft the story you want to tell to the market and to the investors. So while we don't approach the investors ourselves, we certainly form a vital part of the team that would do it together.
Okay, no, that is super. I hope to find your contacts. Yeah, I will find your contacts and we'll carry on privately.
Sure.
Thank you.
Vusiwekaya, do you have
Thank
your
you very
hand
much. Yeah, I did.
raised?
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Look, I appreciate this. I love the part where you talk about not billing according to hours. It's quite an interesting one. My question is, with the whole economic situation that we're seeing globally, how are your clients dealing with the billing issues in terms of work that you do for them? Are you finding any hardships along that zone, or are they comfortable with the investment that they make in your company? Because whenever there are economic hardships, we always see communication, PR, and marketing being the point where they cut money or they reduce budgets on. It also affects us in government. I work in the public service space, and that is one of the nasty experiences we always experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, no problem. So yes, we have in the past, you know, the danger of having a PR retainer is that somebody will look at the spreadsheet and go, oh, well, we can just chop that off and save ourselves however much a month. So we have been victims of that. At the beginning of COVID, I was working with a leading property brand that has a tech approach. So it was technically within our wheelhouse. And they immediately on COVID cut the retainer. I pleaded with them to consider reducing the retainer. And that's literally what we found is I've said rather reduce than cut completely, because they went from being quoted in amongst the top CEF, Pam Goldings, all of those kind of guys, to being nowhere at all, because they literally took a financial decision and just cut the budget. So where possible, I understand business. And I must say I understand it more being self-employed than I ever did when I was running an agency where I was just an employee. So I understand that, but I say to them, try and reduce if you can. We took a knock at the beginning, as I say, and then through COVID, we actually onboarded. And my clients now, as we progress with them, we are educating them about PR, and they have realized that it is not worth reducing or cutting out the PR, because it is such a huge part of their communications, because they don't advertise, because a lot of them don't even do events. They need the PR, and thankfully they respect it enough to keep it as a cost center at the end of the day. But the reality is, yes, you're going to have times where you will lose. We recently lost a great campaign because they needed an ERP system. And they looked at the money and said, well, we need an ERP system to fix our supply chain. And once our supply chain's fixed, we can come back to you, because you're doing such a good job that we are actually not able to fulfill. And they're worried about reputation management. So we lost out to an ERP system, which is quite funny given that we are in tech space.
Thank you very much for that, because it's quite an interesting one. If you look at the research that has been done around PR, one, if I can refer to, is the one that was done by Chime Communication some time back, where they were looking at the value of PR in the work and in the operations of an organization. And most of the CEOs or leaders that were interviewed, they said this is their responsibility. And they were even struggling to measure the impact of PR. But I think we've come a long way from that. And the example that you are giving is quite an interesting and a correct one. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to getting your book.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I just had a look at some of the questions in the chat line. Lulama said that is there a need nowadays to get a PR qualification, and what should a young person do to get into it?
Yes, absolutely. While I'm self-taught, I definitely don't advise people do that nowadays. You know, things were very different back then, and I was blessed to be able to craft a career. But there are great communication degrees at all the varsities, BA communications. You know, whether you go to TICS, Stellies, UJ, Wits, there's also AAA have got a BA in communications. And I would definitely advise doing that. You can also study it part-time. But to get in, yes, to have that, the context and the perspective is important. So I would definitely recommend studying it.
Okay. There's another question here. Matt Spitzer talks about how PR people are not taken seriously in their roles. Certainly that's his experience or her experience in Zim. Is it the same in South Africa? And how can a PR person advance to a C-suite level?
Yeah, so I think that's probably also why I'm on this awareness drive for PR. And Michelle, I'm sure you'll agree with me, we need to be in the boardroom. And while talking about C-suites, most companies don't even have the marketing CMO. They don't even have marketing at board level. And if they do, it's not always with a PR perspective. So I think that we need to continue talking about the role of PR and the role of trust and educate the boardrooms. And I do this all the time with my clients, and I am lucky that I deal with CEOs directly and a lot of my clients now, and they recognize, you know, I've had a client who had a crisis situation and the only way out of that was through PR. So absolutely agree, it's not taken seriously. It's why I'm doing this. In my book, I talk about, there's a chapter on called Boobs and Balloons, and it's about demystifying and making people realize that this is a strategic tool. It's vital and it needs to be part of the mix. And I think that as marketing managers, we need to the marketing managers need to push back more. They need to educate, they need to become our voices and help us, you know, with the fights for people to understand that this is a really important part of a business, that customer experience and how you talk to your customer and how you talk to your staff should be discussed and agreed and dealt with at a boardroom level.
Right. Okay, you consistently emphasize that social media is not PR. So which PR channels would you say are the most effective, and how could social media platforms be better utilized to shift towards a notion of better storytelling? It's a question by...
Yeah.
Did you not hear?
No, that's good. I'm really sorry if I've offended anyone with my war with social media. But I do repeat that. I think it's only because the channels are great. So you have your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, and those kinds of things. But my point is that is one conduit or one tool you can use for communications. There are many others, and that the PR should actually develop the message, craft the story, and then push that through. So if you look at that content plan that I shared very quickly, all of those story ideas, those all can be pushed through the social media channels. So it's how you use those channels to amplify the story, to take the message deeper. And that's where social media is great. And it is community building and it is relationship building, but it cannot own the content strategy. It's just part of the content strategy. So which channels you use is really dependent on which clients you have. We don't do a huge amount on Facebook. LinkedIn is I don't know if you've seen this, but LinkedIn has definitely spiked again in interest. And Insta is a very consumer driven and perhaps even an internal thing. So which ones you use is entirely up to up to you in terms of the industry that you're in and the target audience that you need. You might need to go to TikTok, which is like, you know, my children are TikTok insane. the office. I mean, I have a 24-year-old in the office who, you know, they learn things through TikTok. So, you know, maybe that's important. So yes to social media, but in the right context.
Right. We have another individual who's struggling to present the importance of PR to management. And their response is, but why? Why create more work for our marketing team? What's the value? I can't believe this is a real question. I feel your pain. So the question is, what do you say to someone who asks that with regards to PR, and are we in fact better off without PR? I mean, that's definitely a no.
You know, I would look at them and go, do you not want a conversation with your target audience? Do you not want to speak to your customers? Do you not want to speak to your analysts, your investors, your circle? Because that's what PR is. It's a strategic conversation. Through many, many different pieces of content, we are conversing, we are telling a story. So what, are we not going to story tell anymore? Are we not going to talk about the company? Are we not going to talk about the depth of the company? You have a logo, but who knows what stands behind that? And when you get into trouble, I worked with a large listed company for 12 years until they pulled it in-house. The difference in their PR going in-house, and no disrespect, it just wasn't a great individual in-house. The difference between their PR when the proverbial hit the fan, and they have been in crisis for years now, they had no goodwill left with the media. The media had no knowledge of the leadership, of the ethics of the company, of anything, because they stopped their PR. So what I would say to your management team is, let me understand this correctly. So you are not wanting us to tell stories about the business. You are not wanting to create awareness and educate. And if they say to you, yes, but marketing does that. Marketing pays for that. That has, if marketing is using it from an ad perspective, then that's only one avenue, but that doesn't hold, and with respect to advertising, it doesn't hold the integrity because it's not landing there by the value of the story. So PR brings something totally different. The amount of work it generates will depend on the agencies you use. And if you come to Ginger Ninja or you go to Michelle, we will show you that it's not a lot of hard work if you know what you're doing and you know how to manage the client and you can generate the content. We take that away from the client. Yes, it's the street, and you have to feed us, but we know we have the skills. Michelle and I have the skills, and we know how to pull out. What you need to do is you need to get the likes of her and I in there to fight the fight for you, and just host a meeting with these people, understand what they do, because surely we are not going to be not storytelling. I mean, are we just not having a conversation?
Okay, another question, and I'm sure you've experienced this a few times. You talk about those marketing people who are probably not too au fait with PR, that have a limited understanding of what it is we do, which talks to the last question. But many don't specify a brief, and even less often a budget. So how do you handle this? Do you know, as a PR person who runs their own business, do you see this as phishing? Do you participate? How much information do you give away? How do you handle this?
You know, if they're onboarded and they're a client, we try our best to educate those marketing managers. We give them templates to work with. We'll go, this is how you take a brief. Phil, give it back to us. We, as I mentioned, we counsel, we offer therapy, we help grow them. And, you know, sometimes we end up having to carry a much heavier load than is fair or necessary, but it's just the job at hand. And if the marketing manager is lovely, we don't mind. Where it's hard is when they're working against us and they're also, you know, not understanding and ignorant to what PR is. Sometimes then we do walk away because it's just, you know, there are too many things in our way that we can't control. But mostly we will onboard, we will share, we will make it as easy as possible. We understand what it's like to deal with the managers and that kind of thing. But when they don't understand what PR is, we train them. And yeah, I can tell you now, there are days where it's a burden and a bugbear. And I mean, you and I discussed yesterday that you swear in PR, it's just how it is. And I've done so well. I have once
You have, well done.
myself, because Michelle will tell you, you know, I don't drink and smoke, so I have to swear I'm in PR. So it's easy with those types of people, but it's possible. And you make a call. The same way agents, you choose an agency, we choose clients. And it's one of the things that I, as a self-employed person, if the client is not a pleasure and they are toxic and my team is depressed, I will rather walk away. And I will find other business that makes us happy and that wants to work with us. And that happened towards the end of last year. We walked away from a client because he made it impossible. And I literally said to him that you are rude and you don't work with us and we can't do this anymore. And the goodwill, and I think how my team felt so protected, was worth it in the end of the day.
Beautiful. I see it's 12 o'clock. Do you want to do one more question or shall we? Okay. How does PR assist the marketing or brand team who work with products? Can we get an example of how this will look? And would the PR agency work directly with the marketing team or would they work with the agency?
Okay, so we form a part, and like a virtual part sometimes, of a greater team, and we integrate, and I'm a firm believer of integrated communication. So if you have a brand agency, we will help ensure that what they create speaks to the story that we want to tell. Product managers, I've worked a lot in IT distribution. We worked with product managers, so we work with both the marketing person and the product managers. It's a challenge to educate product managers and find a thought leadership and a viable route, because you can't, I mean, there are times if you have a product launch, you need to talk about the issues that the product or the solution is addressing. You don't talk about the nuts and the bolts of the product. That's where you could do blogs, and you could use your social media and find other channels to talk nuts and bolts about products. You could do video, that type of thing. From a PR perspective, you don't want to be issuing product releases to media. I'm sure you're smiling, Michelle, because you know that they will just lost your mind. They're not interested in product news unless it is a specific vertical, like an engineering news, and the product really speaks to something, or it's a consumer thing like cell phone gadgets. Yeah. I mean, I worked back in the day, I launched Motorola's first phones, and that was a great campaign. And there we obviously spoke about the phones. I launched Cell C back in the day, and the day after 9/11, I launched Cell C. But there, you know, you're talking about the industry. So what I would say if you have products is look at other ways and use your extended team. Your PR agency should integrate with your wider team within marketing, because we're not, as much as I've theorized and sounded like a preacher today, we are not the be all and end all. We are part of a bigger team. And it should integrate through. And the most important thing is we all do the same thing. So if your PR is not run, is different to who doing your social, make sure you integrate that team. You have all on the same call. You all singing from the same hymn sheet. So often I've seen that we don't know what this team's doing and that team's doing, and we're going in this direction. And that's where you need to decide what the strategy is, what the overriding story is, and then everybody tells that story in different ways, and that is how you reach target audiences.
Right. Great. Those are all the questions. Do you want to think about the best question and we'll mail the winner, or do you want to announce the winner now? On the spot.
Okay, so this is the book, and I think probably I will give it to out of goodwill to the social media question, because obviously my message did hit them hard. I might have offended, so.
That's Kira Anthony. Are you still on the call, Kira?
Hi, yes, I'm
There
here.
you go.
Thanks so much.
You're gonna learn to make hot dogs. And in the book, by the way, if you're wondering about the title, in the book it will tell you, you will figure out why I chose making hot dogs as my title.
Yeah, I remember I was at Stellenbosch University, or I am there, and you spoke to us, and I remember that was something that you like really emphasized to us as well.
Yes, I was going to say, I recognize your name and your face now. So what a small world. Here is the value of PR people. I virtual thing, I did a speaking event and I hit one target audience twice.
Consistent
So
messaging.
Yeah.
Well done.
Consistency is key, guys. Don't forget that.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Samantha. It's been awesome to hear what you have to say. And I'm seeing a lot of positive feedback in the chat box. So well done. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Michelle, it was lovely to collaborate with you again. Not just thank you for giving me this opportunity. It is, as I say, a passion project, and I'm always available if anyone wants to talk PR.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
I really need you. I really need your love right now. I'm fading fast, not gonna last. I'm really stupid. I'm burning up, I'm going down, I'm in it bad. Don't even ask. When I find myself in the middle, in the middle, in the middle, could you love me more, just a little, just a little? Overcomplicate, but it's simple, but it's simple, but it's simple. When you love me more, just a little. So tell me now, when every star falls from the sky and every last heart in the world breaks. Oh, hold me now, when every ship is going down, I don't feel nothing when I hear you say, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I'm really sorry. Sorry I dragged you into this. I overthink. That's all it is. The way you love me. The way you love me till the end. The way you love me. Oh yeah, it makes me king again. When I find myself in the middle, in the middle, in the middle. Could you love me more? Just a little, just a little. Overcomplicate, but it's simple, but it's simple, but it's simple. When you love me more, just a little. So tell me now, when every star falls from the sky and every last heart in the world breaks. Oh, hold me now, when every ship is going down, I don't feel nothing when I hear you say, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
It's gonna be okay. When every star falls from the sky and every last heart in the world breaks. It's gonna be okay. When every ship is going down, I don't feel nothing when I hear you say, it's gonna be okay.